Hello everybody, it's Sarah and I am currently on sick leave, which means I have a lot of time on my hands, which means I decided to just sit down and pre-film a bunch of reviews because I currently have like 6 or 7 books that I still need to film reviews for and that I still want to get to you in December because I just want to start 2023. I just wanted to say 2022. Oh my god. It's so late in the year already. It's like crazy. Anyway, this existential crisis aside, I want to start 2023 with like, you know, a fresh start, not having any reviews necessarily that I still need to bring to you. So I decided to just sit down as long as I have time and just pre-film a bunch of them. And so if you see me looking like this over the next couple of weeks, that is the reason why. But that overlong explanation out of the way, the first review I have for you is The Book Eaters by Sunyi Dean. This was my book club pick for back in October. My book club, for those of you who don't know, is of Queens, Witches and Valkyries. And what we do is we buddy read one adult fantasy a month that is written by a woman or a genderqueer person. And the way we decide which book to read next is in the previous month, I just upload a poll on Twitter with 4 books for the next month and you can choose which one you'd prefer to read. For December, since I do intend to have this review up, you know, at least before December is over, we are currently reading Kaikei, so if you're interested in joining us, the links to the Twitter and the Discord are down below. But now back to The Book Eaters. This is adult fantasy. Obviously, it is a paranormal fantasy with some like slight, I would say, thriller, suspense, horror vibes. And so yeah, but before I get more into the book, as always, this review is spoiler free. I will start with a little summary and then I will get into my thoughts, starting with more negative thoughts, ending with more positive thoughts. And if you're noticing my voice slowly vanishing during this review, that is because the time when I'm filming this is actually just a few days after that one video I filmed, my December TBR, where I didn't have a voice at all. So, you know, my voice is not 100% back yet, but I should be fine. I have not talked this much as I'm gonna talk now in days, but I should be fine. Anyway, what is The Book Eaters about? The Book Eaters, as I said, is a paranormal fantasy. It is mostly set in Great Britain, and within this world you have the families. They are just called the families, and they are not human. They are something called book eaters, and what they are is they don't really live off of, you know, human nutrition as we would, but what they do to sustain themselves is they eat books and they then gain all the knowledge that is within the book that they are eating. However, every now and again a child is born and that child is not a book eater but a mind eater. So they don't live off of eating books, they live off of eating minds. The only way they can keep from doing that is via a drug, which does not really still the hunger they have for minds. However, it enables them to live off of books as well. However, mind eaters still are not really treated all that well within the families. Actually, they are treated quite terribly. Now, when it comes to our main character, Devon Fairweather, she has been a member of the families for all her life. However, at the beginning of the book, when we find her, she has fled from the families. The reason is that her son is a mind eater and she does not want him subjected to the cruelties of the families, so she is on the run. However, she does not have the drug that enables him to, you know, eat books. And so we see her at the very beginning of this book. She is on the run. She is trying to somehow find the drug that her son needs to live a somewhat normal life without killing people. And yeah, she is in quite a predicament. And so throughout this book, we get chapters of Devon kind of dealing in the present day and alternating with chapters of her childhood and her past, kind of telling us how she ended up in the predicament that we found her in. That is the rough summary of this book. So now let me get into my thoughts on it. So let's start with my more negative thoughts on this book. The more negative thoughts that I have on this book is that I kind of had a really hard time connecting to the characters and connecting to the story for quite a while. Like, I think for the solid first third of the book, I wasn't bored, but I also like wasn't hooked on the book yet. I was slightly intrigued. I was like, okay, I want to continue reading. I want to see where this goes. However, until about the halfway point, it wasn't like I was like, okay, yeah, now this book has me, now I need to know what happens and I need to see how this finished. I was just like, you know, slightly intrigued. So it did take quite a while for me to get into this book, and as far as I gathered from the discussions that we had in the book club, I wasn't necessarily the only one who felt that way. Aside from that, as I said, I also didn't really have an easy time connecting to the characters, and that kind of was a through line until the very end of the book. There were a few emotional scenes towards the end of the book where I did tear up, but it was less because I cared about the characters personally and more just because I found the dialogue and the scenes written really well. So yeah, it was more along those lines rather than that I really enjoyed the characters themselves. There also was somewhat a slight sapphic romance within the book, which, to be honest, like, it kind of was set up as instant lust for each other or instant attraction towards each other, and I did not necessarily feel the chemistry between the two women. Yeah, I was just not all that into it, I guess. Like, it didn't bother me or anything, but I also wasn't too into it. Actually, when I say I wasn't too into the characters, I am lying in the case of one character. There was one side character that I absolutely loved, and the first time they appeared on page, I was like, if anything happens to the cinnamon roll, I don't know what I'm going to do, but yeah, there was one character that I absolutely loved. Aside from those aspects, there wasn't really anything that negative I would say about this book. The thing that I guess I could say is that I feel like it could have leaned into some of the more horrific aspects a little bit more within the story, because the concept of the Mind Eaters is absolutely scary and so crazy. And there were parts when, you know, Devon was dealing with her son and stuff that were absolutely heartbreaking and absolutely horrific, but those kind of felt sometimes a little bit like isolated incidents, and I just would have loved if there had been, like, you know, a bit more of the general horrific vibe. Aside from that, what did I enjoy about this book? What did I love about this book? I really enjoyed the writing style. I thought it, yeah, I mean, I can't remember the writing style that much, to be honest, but I think I remember thinking that, like, a lot of the quotes within the book really got to me, and I was like, there were some quotes where I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this again, I'm gonna really let this part linger and just not move on too quickly. And then aside from that, also, as I said, the dialogue was, I think, really well written. I think in general, the thing that I enjoyed the most about this book were the relationships. I think they were really well done, especially the relationship between Devon and her son, because it's hard because you see Devon, like, and it's not really a spoiler because it really happens in the first chapter. In the first chapter, Devon comes back to her son, who has been starving for a few days, and he needs to eat another mind. And Devon, for the past few, I don't remember if it's been weeks or months, the way she has been living is she has been luring strangers to wherever she has been living with her son, and then locking those strangers in a room with her son so the son could eat their minds. And so you see her doing that in the very first chapter. So it starts off quite grim, the book, and you have this relationship between Devon and her son, where Devon does these things for her son because he's her son and she really loves him, but at the same time she also has this fear of her son, not just for her son but of her son, and she has this part in her that's like kind of that doesn't really accept her son, obviously, because, you know, he has to not kill people but suck the personality from people to live. And it's just this really interesting dynamic. And at the same time you have the son, who is, I believe, 5 years old, but because of the mines he has eaten, he just seems way more mature. And he's also very aware of what he is doing and what he has to do and what that means for his mother and what his mother thinks of him as well. But he's also aware of what his mother is doing for him and why she is doing this for him. And they just have some really beautiful moments between the two of them that I just absolutely loved and that made me tear up so much. So I really think, like, if for nothing else, read this book for this great mother-son relationship. Also, in general, if you enjoy books with mothers as main characters, especially mothers who have to make difficult decisions and who, on the one hand, do unconditionally love their children, but on the other hand are also very conflicted about the notion of motherhood, which also has a lot to do with Devon's past, which I don't really want to get into because of spoiler territory, but basically the families are very patriarchal, and so Devon in her childhood never really had a lot of freedom, and it's just, it's this very interesting dichotomy there, where on the one hand, for Devon, from her youth, like, motherhood was her only worth that she had as a woman, but at the same time, within the society of the families, she wasn't really allowed to be a mother in any type of, like, nurturing way. So I thought that whole aspect of it was also really, really interesting. And yeah, aside from that, I think that's really it. I think the plot is interesting, the plot is engaging enough, but as I said, it took me a bit to get hooked on it, and I wouldn't really necessarily say that it's, you know, anything mind-boggling, amazing. It's just, the plot is there, and it's really one of those books where it's very relationship focused, character focused, theme focused, concept focused, so I don't even really want to talk about the plot that much necessarily. And yeah, I think that was it, what I had to say about this book. If you have read the book, tell me in the comments down below what were your thoughts. If you haven't read the book, are you interested in picking it up? By the way, I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. So I did end up really enjoying it. Like, the ending really brought me around. Although I have to say, if you don't like open endings to books, I don't know if the ending of this book necessarily will be for you, because it is kept very open. Like, there's a lot of loose threads that are just kept open. But yeah, aside from all of that, if you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media as well as to my book club will be left linked down below, of course, so go and check those out, and I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!